Back-to-back short tracks. This week we tackle the paperclip at Martinsville as NASCAR revs up to go short track racing once again. Catch all the action and all of our favorite pets and our favorite DFS picks right here on the Backroad.
It's a non-points race, but it is a short race. Checker flag. That's all this race is.
What's up, everyone? Happy Thursday night to you all. Thanks for watching The Backroad. It's In Between Media's Fantasy NASCAR and NASCAR betting show. Guys, is this the big three? I think this is the big three. My name's Elliot Hicks. With me is Seth Woolcock and Rod Villagomez. Glad to be back with you guys to talk some Martinsville this week.
Man, the Busch Light fishing cans came out last week, boys, and we reeled some big ones in. We reeled some winners in last week, so I'm excited to get back to another short track here in Martinsville and find some soft lines that we're going to exploit here at the books. Rod, good to have you alongside us this week as well, my friend.
Yeah, any week that I'm not with you guys, my heart breaks because I definitely love this. I love chopping it up with you guys. It's always fun. Yeah, take a half mile or take a quarter mile rather off of the track, and we're getting into the down and dirtiness of it all. I know that we started out with every different track configuration you could think of. Now it's sort of the same, but it's still not at the same time. So I got to tell you, I know as handicappers, we've been on our heels for the last few weeks, but you got to imagine these drivers are like, what the hell? When are we going to get to a decent, nice, a boring track again?
Yeah, maybe a hot minute there. We are short track racing again this week, but Richmond and Martinsville are two very different tracks. Let's go ahead and close the book on Richmond in the rear view. So it wasn't always the most exciting cup race at Richmond, but we had a little bit of everything. We had wet weather tires on the cars to start the race, had some phantom cautions that kind of threw a wrench into some guys' strategies, and then a nice little late rate caution for the guy who I said in my Between Bets article perhaps has had more wins stolen from him than anybody else, Martin Truex Jr. He ends up mad because Denny Hamlin uses him up and jumps the start a little bit. So we had a controversial ending to talk about, at least, that has kept the conversation for what wasn't the best race going well into the week.
The internet has been loud this week, boys. People bitching about Easter racing, people bitching about wet weather tires, and of course, Denny Hamlin jumping the restart. We were on the right side of that. I'll be honest. So I'm very happy, Rod. I feel good about it. And hey, man, that's part of racing. You know, in a way, Truex was leaning back on that one as well, and he would have got a good jump if not. So you got to do what you got to do out here in these streets of Cup Series racing.
Well, and I'm a little bit irritated because I did not give him out Hamlin as an outright in the NASCAR gambling podcast, but I did write him up in my article for SBR, and I gave Joe Gibbs as the winning team. So I sort of covered all the bases in between the two. I really wish I would have given him out. I went with Brad Keselowski for some stupid reason, but whatever. That's neither here nor there. But yeah, you hate to see that for Martin Truex Jr. But hey, listen, you know, from putting duct tape underneath the body wrap to all kinds of other stuff. These drivers are trying everything to win races. So I can't fault Hamlin for that.
Yeah.
No, go ahead, Seth.
With 2 laps left, like I was thinking, okay, like I'm going to take a little bit of a loss on this week because I went real heavy on Hamlin outright. And like, I'm usually on the wrong side of that. I think we as a collective, as a team, are usually on the wrong side of late restarts. But Elliot, we are on the right side of it. Hamlin's pit crew firing off right now.
Yeah, I mean, great pit crew, great pit stop for the 11. And jumping the restart, I mean, it's pretty clear. He went a little early before that restart zone. But when NASCAR freely admits that they're going to be that ambiguous with the rules, why not go for it? It's the same thing as, you know, if you don't call late pass interference in a close football game or something like that. You know, let the players play, let the racers race. I understand Denny being like, fuck it, I'm going to go for it, get that win. I understand Truex being pissed. Just kind of the way it is. And, hey, we had some pretty good betting luck in Xfinity, too. Chandler Smith outdueling Eric Almirola for the win there, Seth.
Yeah, man. Shout out Chandler Smith. Like, I fantasy race, all the data he put out for Xfinity was leading me one place, and it was Chandler Smith. So I will say, Bubba Pollard, that sneaky son of a bitch, got me on the back door. Same with Taylor Gray. I went really heavier than I went on Chandler. I went on Austin Hill in that one group that I sent you early in the week, Ellie. I was like, this is probably my favorite Xfinity hammer ever. Got bid on that one, but Chandler Smith comes through for us. Up 7.5 units from last week. Like, that was what we needed as a group, as a collective. We're back in action. We're swinging hot here. Looks like we got Nick in the chat saying, "What's up, Steve's from Blues Clues."
That's a throwback from the episode earlier from the NASCAR Gambling Podcast. Cody and company said I'm Steve from Blues Clues, so I'll take it. He's a good guy. I'll take it.
Yeah, who did they replace Steve with? Jeff? What was the other guy's name?
Yeah, some of the J, it was Joey or something.
Okay. Yeah, I like Steve the best. I like Rod Sweater the best. Nick saying also Denny jumped. Yeah, it happens. It happens, man. Any other things that you guys can note from the weekend that we should take away, other than I think as we get further in the Cup season on these short tracks, like the pit crews are mattering more to me, and like I'm more prone against, like, I don't want to touch Kyle Busch with a 10-foot pole right now.
Ooh, I don't think Kyle Busch's wife wants to touch him with a 10-foot pole right now. I think that's how far down in the dumps he is. Honestly, no. So what I took away too is I can't wait to see if these wet weather tires become a factor again down the road, because that was a very interesting start to the race, and I wonder how it would have played out had it continued to be on those wet weather tires.
Yeah, something a little disappointing too was that NASCAR ended up sort of mandating, okay, we're going to have this comp yellow at lap 30 or whatever, and you're all going to the slicks. I mean, it's a hell of a lot different than it is at a road course, you know, balancing whether you put on the wets or the slicks. But it would have been a little fun to have some of that strategy. And what in the world are they calling that caution for? Kyle Busch kind of getting a little up and out of the way, and you're going to throw yellow for that? Really threw a wrench in some strategy that could have made the middle to late part of the race more exciting. But it is what it is. We just said NASCAR and their ambiguous calls, you know.
Rod was doing his reaction podcast on Sunday night, and I got in there, and I'm all juiced up for hitting another outright that I shouldn't have. And I'm like, is this the best race of the year? And everyone's like, no, it wasn't. And like, I was hyped up. And I will say this, I've been on this program, and I've bashed Richmond so many times. Ellie, I remember the race you went a couple of years ago to Richmond. Like, it was shit. It was probably the worst.
You fell asleep.
Yeah. And then you had to drive like 8 hours home too. But
damn near fell asleep then too.
Yeah,
shout out Jared for taking most of that drive.
Yeah, regardless, I think I've acquired the taste now for Richmond. Like, it's a strategy race. It might not be the most action-packed thing, but I'll say this too. I had some family. I was up with some family. I had the Xfinity race on Saturday. Joey Gase getting pissed off, ripping the back fender off, chucking that at Dawson Cram. That was awesome. That got like a big pop out of the whole room, and they're like, okay, maybe NASCAR is coming back a little bit. So much that my brother went home the next night and he said he watched the race for the first time in a couple of years. So I'm glad to see that. Shout out Joey Gase for doing the Lord's work last weekend.
Yeah, I mean, anything that gets NASCAR a lot of impressions, no matter how gimmicky it is, we'll certainly take it. And Richmond is an acquired taste. It's still going to lose a date next year until we get it.
No, I don't. Leave it on Easter. That was like, I know it's not going to sell. I know like nothing's probably going to sell in the South on Easter. Leave it on Easter. It's a good TV product though. Looks sweet as hell from that Goodyear blimp. Holy hell. Like I was like, oh, you know what I mean?
Very true. Hey, let's close the book on Richmond and start to look ahead to Martinsville and the horizon forecast.
Hey, Michael, it was only 20% chance of rain. I think we got all 20.
Shout out to our guy Ray Dunlap. We certainly got all 20 here in Pittsburgh. Some big time flooding here. So
oh yeah.
But anyway, looking ahead to Martinsville, where hopefully there won't be flooding there. It's like we said, a short track, kind of like Richmond, but not kind of like Richmond. We call it the paperclip. It reminds you if you ever raced at Baby Park on Mario Kart, basically the same sort of deal. But Seth, you can get a little more scientific on the track breakdown.
Yeah, at least on Baby Park, I think you can still gas it around the corners. At Martinsville, you got some heavy braking there. And when looking at Martinsville, it really is a unique short track. So we do have some like loose comps, but I'm really locking in on the Martinsville next gen stats here. You can look at New Hampshire a little bit. You can look at some of our funky races, the North Wilkesboro, the LA Coliseum a little bit as well. But as far as comps, I was mainly locked into Martinsville this week, Rod, looking at some of those secondaries loosely as well.
Yeah, and for me, I mainly focused on the spring Martinsville because there's sometimes the fall Martinsville race is 500 laps, so it's not always a direct comp. Because as Cody and I always say on the NASCAR Gambling Podcast, those extra 100 laps sometimes are a big difference in how cars perform, how drivers perform, and the chaos that can ensue in those 100 laps. So sometimes you can't compare these fall races to these spring races. So I primarily looked at spring Martinsville as my comp.
There's also the fact that that's been the second to last race of the year. So not quite the same vacation mode you get in Phoenix. Definitely a lot more playoff guys running toward the front. Probably a few more teams a little more checked out. That'll affect things also.
Yeah, and guys, we have a fully packed schedule weekend of racing. I'm pumped up for it. Truck Series back on Friday nights. That's where I prefer to watch it. And then Xfinity Saturday night race as well. So you can go do whatever the hell you have to do tomorrow. Get off work, go get yourself some dinner, maybe a couple beers at the bars with some buddies, and enjoy the truck race, Xfinity race. Do whatever you need to on Saturday. Get out there. Cup practice and qualifying, though, isn't going to be at 4:35 p.m. Eastern time. Groups are out now. Sunday, then, we're going to come back 3 p.m. Eastern time, and we have the Cup race. Lap 80, lap 180, and lap 240 are those markers there. And let's look at a couple of the trends for Martinsville this week, guys. Joey Logano leads all actives in starting position, 8.4, and poles, 5 of them at Martinsville. That caught me a little bit off guard, honestly. Like, I knew Joey was strong here, but I didn't know he was that strong in the qualifying. And then 11 active Martinsville winners in the field. And the last 4 of them have been new winners at Martinsville. So will it be one of these guys who's won previously at Martinsville, or will it be a brand new winner? I'm not sure. But the last time there was a brand new Cup winner in general at this track, it was in 2001, Ricky Craven. So a little shout out there to Ricky for Cravens. But that kind of like, we've seen the Ty Gibbs hype dying down a little bit this week. Like, they've been in the comments and the chats, like, for every live show in the community the past 4 or 5 weeks. And it's kind of died down a little bit this week. And I think it's probably because of that stat right there. Like, you don't see a lot of new winners here at Martinsville. I know there's some Josh Berry love around the internet right now as well, but keep that in mind. Winners, generally, qualifying is going to matter this week. Front row winners come about 24.7% of the time, top 5, 45% of the time, top 10, 73% of the time. And the last 3 Martinsville races have not gone to OT. So, Elliot, I'm not expecting any craziness like potentially last week.
No, and that qualifying stat is really important too. If it's anything like the last few, especially spring Martinsvilles have gone, there's not going to be a lot of passing. There's not going to be a lot of opportunity unless your car is so ridiculously good, which we just haven't seen, to get up there into the front of the field. And a little shout out to Ricky Craven stats, though. The Ty Gibbs love has not quite soured on me yet, as we'll talk about later. And, Craven got him before, you can get him again.
Rod, it's interesting too, because last week was one of those weeks I wanted to save a lot of my unit allocation for my outrights after practice and qualifying. Like, Hamlin then went to 7-1. Like, I saw him live at one point. I hate that I didn't jump back on him, 12-1 during the race. Like, I'm not expecting as many buyback opportunities, so I'm trying to get more invested pre-practice and qualifying here at Martinsville, as opposed to Richmond, where I was comfortable waiting and seeing.
And it is funny because the adjustment between the qualifying and practice and all that stuff for the books, it doesn't, since we do our show so early in the week, it's always hard to say, okay, well, this is your best opportunity to get this person at this price. Right. And it's always sort of a speculation, obviously. But on a track like this, that obviously you talked about the starting position. You talked about how important it is to where they finish. This is one of those weeks where, you can talk about the top guys like we're going to talk about and say, we expect them to start toward the top, so you may not get a better shot at a price for this. However, who knows? You know what I'm saying? Like, Denny's price got better, and you just kind of have to roll with it. But if you feel good about a guy and you think that he's going to start well, now's the time to get in on it, because if you miss out on that price, you're going to be mad. You can wait on a few guys, but I think on this track in particular, you can't wait if you want to get in on a guy you want now.
Well, and if you guys remember a year ago, I believe it was at this race or the fall race. I can't remember which one, but Ryan Preece pulled this And we had Chris from Flag Hunting blowing up our DMs, telling us to get down on it. We didn't, of course. And I think it was a nice 40-1 hit for Flag Hunting over there. So we could see a wild card potentially pull that. I think it's something to keep in mind. We got Bob in the chat showing a little love to the 4-car. Yeah, like I said, a lot of 4-car love on the internet. Bob's one of those guys potentially. And Logano's definitely made it back in my good graces this week a little bit after kind of a disappointing start to the season for him. Let's round out this discussion with iFantasyRace.com's Asterisk Mark drivers of the week. First up, Ty Gibbs. He was a top 5 contender last year at the fall race, was running really well, started second, finished stage 1 in 7th, and then finished stage 2 in 6th. However, old Joey Logano got into him. They went back and forth. Carson Hocevar later spun him in traffic. Ty Gibbs finishes with an 18th, which was not reflective of his run there. Elliot, are you keeping that in mind here? A little Ty Gibbs love for you potentially.
Yeah, and I mean, it's not necessarily specifically Ty Gibbs' love. He certainly could win it, but it's the other 3 JGR cars too. They've just been dominant on short tracks. I don't see any reason why that won't continue this week.
Maybe not dominant for Tyler Reddick, though, Rod. He finished 26th last fall, and it kind of looks like that might be an asterisk mark. It wasn't. Ryan's telling us over at iFantasy Race. I was a little bit hyped on Tyler Reddick last week, early in the week. I was trying to find any plus money top 10 to get invested with him. He broke his streak of having no top 10s at Richmond. I wish I was invested there. Are you going to have any investment in Tyler Reddick after what he's done at short track, specifically Martinsville?
What's crazy to think is that we were so high on Reddick coming into the season, thinking that this was going to be another step up for him in that 45 car. Second year here, you get settled in. Bubba's looked good when he's looked good, and it just hasn't really panned out the way we all hoped it would have. And that top 10 last week, that wasn't a lock by any stretch. That he really got his way into that the very last lap, right? This was him getting into the last lap. So I'm not hitting the panic button on Reddick yet. But he may be hitting the panic button on himself if he doesn't do well this week.
And they're battling pit stop issues. The crews on both of those cars have cost those boys a lot of spots in the 23-11 camp. So something to keep in mind there as well. And I'm with you, Rod. We saw a lot of speed at Phoenix. I was like, oh, damn, maybe Tyler Reddick's here to play. Just haven't really seen it quite yet. I don't think I'll be invested in Tyler Reddick. Nick saying no bet, but the 4-car looks dead sexy. Is there a number on best paint scheme? Elliot, what's that paint scheme? I don't think I've seen. Have you seen it yet?
Yeah, I think this week it's a gold Mobil 1 car. It looks really nice. It's been going around a bit.
Mobil 1.
Something about their like gold standard. Shout out to some of the Harvick sponsors staying on that 4-car. And on Reddick, I remember watching that race last fall because he was still in the not the Elite 8. I've been watching too much college basketball, but the round of 8. Yeah. And I remember just waiting for him. When is Reddick going to get up there? When's he going to fight? Never happened.
Bob, a little Briscoe. We'll talk about Briscoe. Don't you worry, Bob. Don't you worry, my friend. What do you guys say? Break this down a little bit further, DFS style here in tire tiers.
Yeah, let's talk about Stewart Haas Racing and everybody else in the tire tiers. Definitely going to be a little tougher to talk about everybody else this week, as we do have some high prices at the top of the board. Denny Hamlin at 11,500, Kyle Larson 11.2, Martin Truex Jr. 10.8, Ryan Blaney 10.5, Christopher Bell 10.2, and on down the line. Pretty juicy week, as we were saying, and I think that'll apply to DFS too.
Yeah, and like you're gonna need some of these dart throws. I will say that because I want to put Denny Hamlin in every fucking lineup I can. I don't want to jump. I know we usually start with Rod, but I think Denny Hamlin for me is the 101 again this week. He's led me to a couple victories here in the DFS world the last couple of weeks. And if I'm paying up for anyone in that like 10-5 plus range, it's Denny Hamlin. It's the safest bet for me. All these other guys have a little bit of worry warts here. So we're going to talk about a lot of dart throws. I'm going Denny Hamlin top of the board. Rod, do you have an argument with that?
How can you at this point? I mean, the guy's pretty much fired the first shot over there at Richmond, and I think he's going to keep it going at Martinsville. What's funny, though, Seth, is that I was going to suggest you want to just go ahead and put every Gibbs driver up on A and just kind of call it good, because, I mean, honestly, Martin Truex Jr., is who I was going to go with next. Yeah. And I basically called him out as an outright on the show earlier this week, because That dude's gonna be so pissed off. Like, and I
Yeah.
know when you are a driver of the caliber of Martin Truex Jr. and you've led as many laps on short tracks as you have, when you've been as successful on a specific track, I'm not even going to bore you with any of the major stats behind Martin Truex Jr.'s. Suffice it to say that he is definitely one of the lap leaders around this track all time. He leads. He's what, the fourth? He's led the fourth most laps on this track. 1,063 laps around this track. He's got 3 wins, 10 top 5s, 16 top 10s, and 36 starts, 2 poles. I mean, you can't not have him on your card this week, because if he goes out and leads every single lap, you're gonna be pissed off. At 10-8, he's the third highest priced driver on the board.
Yeah, Elliot, I'm super down with MTJ and Hamlin being up there. I don't know about Gibbs or Bell. I think there's.
I was just kidding, but
no. Personally, though, I mean, how can you not have these guys? I mean, maybe we can sandwich 1 or 2 in there, but just, I mean, JGR has been so dominant on the short tracks. Christopher Bell, 4th in the next Gen Speed ranking, and I get with Ty Gibbs. You know, the young guys don't often get their first wins at Martinsville, but this guy's ran well enough, and he can be physical enough to really get down in Martinsville. You know, Bristol, the other really short compact track we have, dude ran pretty damn well there too. Price of $9,000. I mean, like I said, if we sandwich in maybe a Hendrick driver in here too, but I think all 4 of the Gibbs cars very worthy of being TRA this week.
I'm cool with it. I'm cool with it. I do think there's like, maybe it's a big A tier this week then, because I think at least 3 other people that need to be considered for this A tier. Elliot, do you have any?
I mean, I'm good with claiming these 2 Gibbs cars as my little soliloquy here. Let's see who you have.
I mean, definitely Kyle Larson. He won this race a year ago and kind of has like a stranglehold right now on the Chevys on the short tracks. And looking at some of these comp tracks as well, really, really good at these comp tracks. Came from the rear in the All-Star race, 4th at New Hampshire last year, top 5 this season in the Busch Light Clash, Bristol and Richmond. He's going to be up there, man. So give me Kyle Larson. I don't think a lot of people actually be on Larson this week, but if I'm not playing Denny as my driver A, I'm going to play Kyle Larson. And what are we supposed to do about the Penske boys? Because I'm higher on Logano this week than most, especially at 9.5 on DraftKings. And if you're playing on Fantrax in a season long, he's like $20. He's really cheap on Fantrax. So I like Joey Logano a lot. I like Ryan Blaney a lot too. How do you hate the guy who won this track last? Although Rod did point out that was in the fall, so maybe that's a different run for Blaney.
Well, and don't be too afraid, because Logano in the spring finished second here in 2023. He finished second here in 2022 as well. So Logano's put together some pretty good runs around Martinsville in the spring. So, and in fact, better runs than he did in the fall. So, and then as for Blaney, I mean, just in general, Blaney at Martinsville has the second best average finishing position behind, guess what, Joey Logano, since February of 2021. So Blaney with the 6.2, Logano with the 5.2 rather. Blaney a win, 3 top 5s and 4 top 10s in those races as well. So I mean, you know, you got to put Blaney up there as well. I know he hasn't necessarily enjoyed the best season so far, but I think around this track, you definitely can make a case for him. I love that you put Gibbs behind all those guys. Good call.
Thank you.
Well, that's what I was going to get to, is that I totally get putting the 2 experienced Penske guys in the front there. Blaney, you know, top speed ranking among those Penske cars too. And I think it's a big A tier, almost because you're not really going to have any lower tier guys. So the top of the top is the cream of the crop this week for sure.
We joked about it before we even got on. We were like, can we just do A and B and then just go through the rest of the drivers afterwards and say, yep, they are warm-blooded drivers. We'll go ahead and put them in.
There is a wheel. They will be driving. They will be turning. Absolutely. Elliot, who else can you make for driver Bs?
Well, I know you said you had, I think, one other guy who you were thinking about for the A's. I'm curious to hear who that was.
That was the Penske boys and Larson pretty much. So we covered those.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, I mean, it's crazy how much of a drop off this is, because normally we see big drop offs from your B's to C's or your C's to D's.
Yeah.
I really think your winner's one of these 7 guys. But you know, there's some more wiggle room here. There's a few different options you can go. I think I'm gonna put Keselowski up on the board here. He's at a pretty high price, $9,200. I don't necessarily love that because, again, we've seen Brad run well. We haven't seen Brad make it back to victory lane, but RFK's had a good short track program. I think Brad mulling around in the top 10 is very, very reasonable on Sunday.
Yeah, I mean, I got bit by Brad Keselowski last week. I went in on him as an outright, and I was like, oh, Brad Keselowski's gotta come through for a good win. No, he didn't. So I mean, but if you're gonna put the 6, you might as well put the 17, because God knows that those guys literally run back to back. So it doesn't matter where they are; they literally are magnetic and find each other every single lap.
Yeah, I mean, I can't disagree with that. They're both pretty good in the speed rankings here. Keselowski 9th and Buescher a little lower. Martinsville's not quite as good as a Bristol or Richmond for him, but RFK running well. You're going to see them both running together. We always do it on these tiers.
Yeah, and Buescher started the season real slow from a DFS perspective. He's battled his way back. Point totals of 58, 71, 48, 43 the last month. 4 straight top 10 finishes for Buescher. He has more consistency, I think, than Brad, but Brad might have higher upside, but we know Brad's not winning. Well, let's be honest. I was saying it earlier when the NASCAR betting preview show was on the channel. Like, I'm not betting Brad outright ever again. I'm okay. I'm okay.
Not even Talladega or Daytona?
Maybe you can twist my arm at a super speedway. But the thing with I'm okay with missing his first win. You know what I mean? I'll have him in some DFS lineups here and there, but I'm okay with missing it. I'm going to go with the number 14 car, Chase Briscoe. Briscoe, I think, is the best, dirty little secret of Martinsville. And for whatever reason, this guy just has his tracks. When he was coming into the Cup Series a couple years ago, Elliot, I was all over Briscoe. I was like, he's him. He's next up. He's really not. He really hasn't been, but he is good at certain tracks. Phoenix, lights out at Phoenix. Whatever's in the water up there, the Indianapolis Motor Speedway on the road course, lights out there as well. And specifically on track. And specifically these short flat tracks too, though. He's just really, really good. Number 5 in the next gen speed rankings at Martinsville. That's the big thing you need to think with Briscoe here. I know there's a lot of love for the 4 out there. I know there's some Ryan Preece truthers in the audience tonight as well. But Briscoe is the top SHR car. I think he's going to be dangerous. And at the price you're getting Chase Briscoe this week, guys, 7,500, it's probably going to be chalky. I don't think I'm the only one who's on him this week, but I'll eat the chalk.
It's funny because you talk about Briscoe being the dirty little secret. He's not. If you've listened to anybody, he's not. I mean, maybe it's because we are in an echo chamber, but certainly everybody that I know, and Cody's hard heading the drum for Briscoe. So yeah, but for good reason. I mean, it's not as if there's no backing behind this. And obviously short flat tracks, you think SHR, which is why, almost we should put all of the SHR drivers in this tier B just for the holy hell of it, because people have been talking about Noah Gragson being fast in this one as well. And Ryan Preece being fast here as well. So, I mean, I'm not sure I'm ready to do that, but I'm certainly willing to listen to the case for all of them. But yeah. What about a Hendrick guy? What you want to put Byron or Elliott on there? What does the consensus feel about it?
I'm thinking Byron well before Chase Elliott. I mean, he's won here more recently. Yep. He's won within the last 2 years. That's something you can't say about Chase Elliott.
No, you can't. Yeah, and you look at Byron too. Overall, he is the 4th best average here since 2021, February 2021. 8.8, 6 races, a win, 3 top 5s, 4 top 10s. The guy's been fast around this track, so I think he's going to get it done again. The price scares me a little because he's $9,800. He's just on that cusp of what an A guy should be. Yeah. But a top 5 may get it done for him this week.
That's why he's a mid-tier B. You know what I mean? Yeah. That's why he's a mid-tier B. Go ahead and throw Elliott in the C's. I think Elliott.
I was going to suggest we'll put Chase and probably the rest of SHR here in driver C's.
Throw him in the C.
Yeah.
Let's debate the order though. We got Josh Berry in the 4, Gregson in the 10, Preece in the 41. I'd probably go 4, 41, 10.
Yeah, and I would say I would put at least Berry ahead of Chase Elliott. That's for sure.
Yeah, he's got the short track pedigree. We saw him run pretty well at Richmond last week. And really, this is one of SHR's only shots to really have the whole team show out, run well, get some good mojo in that race team.
Funny enough, too, their prices, they're all back to back in DraftKings pricing. Chase Briscoe, 75, Berry, 74, 72 for Preece, Gregson, 71. So they don't really know what to do with them, I feel like. They're all kind of in that group. And I wouldn't mind playing a bunch of SHR guys this week. We know Eric Almirola was good here. Harvick was good here. Like it's kind of the next generation, but it's almost like they have the same drivers still, like the short flat guys, you know? We got Rachel in the chat saying, good evening, fam. What's up, Rachel? Rachel just had an awesome NFL piece come out on the website tonight. Glad to see her. She's been getting some NASCAR picks this year, so happy to see her in the chat. Nick's, no Denny love from the chat tonight. Denny will fizzle towards the end. Truex coming for Denny. Oh, man.
That's a pretty hot take.
He's going to beat your favorite driver again. I promise you. I promise you. Is there anyone else that belongs in the B tier, Elliot? Is there anyone else that you can make the case for?
I mean, looking at just the speed rankings to the right of me, maybe somebody like Bubba Wallace, but I don't even know if he's quite in the same echelon as these guys.
Dude, it's his fucking pit crew, man. Like, again,
big one.
Yeah, put him, like, if you want to put him ahead of Gragson, that's fine, but I'd still rather play Priest this week.
Yeah, I think I'm fine even behind Gragson. What do you think, Rob?
I would definitely put him behind Gragson, only because, like you said, it's the pit crew that's been screwing him up, and he hasn't been able to rebound from him. So it's not, he looked good last week trying to rebound from it, but then obviously him and Larson got into it again. So yeah, I mean, that's all it takes sometimes. What do we think about Chastain?
That was the one name.
Yeah.
Chastain, very up and down on this track. Very up and down, I feel like, on this track. Like, we know what he did a couple years ago with the Hail Melon, but he's not up there in the speed rankings at all. 15th.
He needed the Hail Melon to get into the Final Four that year. He wasn't running well enough.
8,300 though. Like, I'd rather pay for him than Reddick at 85 and Kyle Busch at 81. So I think you could make Chastain a B- or a C+. I think he's in that range for sure.
I don't know that I want. Yeah, go ahead, bro.
Well, no, that's what I'm saying. Like, it's difficult to figure it out because you look at what he's done. Like you said, in the fall of last season, he started 14th, finished 13th. In the spring, started 13th, finished 34th. In the fall of 2022, started 4th, finished 9th. I mean, these aren't good DFS days. In the spring, he finished 27th after starting 5th. Like, these are fantastically bad DFS days, especially in the spring for him. So
that's what he did last week too. That's what he did last week. Yeah.
Yeah. Like I don't mind him in the C's, but I don't think he's ahead of any of these 5.
No, I don't.
Okay. Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Yeah, let's go to the D's then. Let's drop back down. God, where's Matt Benedetto when you need him? He was always like a nice little Martinsville driver.
In a head-to-head against SVG in the Xfinity series, or in the Truck series rather. So I'm taking him.
Okay, I'm gonna go with Ricky Stenhouse Jr. 8th in this race last season, started 16th. That will get it done from a DFS perspective. In the fall, finished 19th, started 20th. Like, Ricky Stenhouse is good at being aggressive on aggressive tracks, and he's not afraid to bump someone out. So I think you're going to get some nice leverage with Ricky Stenhouse down 6,000. I don't think there'll be a lot of goers for him. So I'll take Stenhouse. Rod, anyone else you want to shout out here in the D's?
We reached this part yet? I don't even know. Do you say, I don't even want to say his name. I don't want to say Kyle Busch's name. I don't know if I want to put him in the F's right now, or do I just want to leave him on the bottom? Are we doing an honorable mention for him?
These are his DFS totals though lately: 18, 43, 13, 29. So, like, you haven't been getting like slam, but I mean, you have been though, because you're paying 10,000 for it every week.
Well, and here's my thing, okay, and from a guy that is as talented as Kyle Busch, how many weeks are you going to stay at the bottom? How many weeks are you going to be the laughing stock? And Kyle, you could tell me I'm a terrible host. I don't care. Come at me. I got a thick skin. But how many weeks in a row can you do that? I mean, at what point does the iceberg come crashing down on him and he finds his way back up to the top? I don't think it's this week, but I definitely think that it's coming. And maybe this week is kind of a step in the right direction. The dude's at the top of the list on so many of the stats from the past on this track, right? He's been so dominant. He's led laps. He's got wins. So, I mean, I'm just saying I'm not playing him. But if you love you some Kyle Busch, this may be the week to try to just GPP him and hope he does well.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have any love for Rowdy at all. I tried to make that argument, I think, at Bristol. RCR has been crummy. Rowdy used to be good here. Didn't work all that well. And I think his price at 8,100, his numbers here, and just RCR's general incapability of putting together a short track package, I think he's an F, but I think he's an F just to point out, don't play Kyle Busch this week.
Thank you. That's my thing too.
Yeah. Yeah. Alex Bowman for D's, your guy,
Yeah.
throw him in there. At least has 2 top 12 finishes over the last 3 next gen races here. And if you go back to 2021, Elliot, if you remember, he won that one kind of out of
If
nowhere.
If I remember.
Yeah. So, yeah, Alex, I don't want to pay for him. I don't think this week,
No.
like at 7,900, there's better guys for less, but I don't mind Bowman. And JHN has been nice too. I think he should be in D's.
Well, then if you're gonna do that, put Eric Jones in there as well. Those legacy boys
Yep.
tend to run together too.
What do you guys think about Austin Dillon? Does he get a new crew chief bump now that he has what's his name back?
Put him in the Fs, right alongside his buddy,
All
right alongside his teammates.
What's the crew chief name? Who is it?
I think they kicked Keith Rod into the curb, and I think Justin Alexander's back in there.
Justin Alexander.
So.
Yeah. And if you remember, I'm pretty sure like most of Austin Dillon's Cup Series career wins have come with Justin Alexander, right?
All of them. Yep.
Could it be?
Are we breaking news on the back road? What?
I swear to God, like Justin Alexander. But why, if he's such a good crew chief, why does he get kicked to the can every week? You know what I mean?
Well, I don't know that he's such a good crew chief. I think maybe it's one of those deals, maybe guys don't want to travel as much. Maybe you just want to try something new. I mean, Austin Dillon's been looking for a spark in his career to keep him from just being this middling, not a back marker. He has 7 or 8 good weeks a year, but that's all you're really seeing out of him. And maybe that crew chief bump gives him one of these 7 or 8 at a place where they couldn't, they can't put the package together.
I know we're not in betting yet, but 9-1 for Austin Dillon top 10. I don't have the balls to do it, but
no.
Every other book he's like 4.5, and Caesars is just thrown out of 9. Like Daniel Suarez is 3-1. I don't know. That's
they want your money. They want your money. That's all there is to it. 9-1. Of course, Austin Dillon is a top 10 card. 9-1. No, don't fall in that trap.
How the mighty have fallen. My goodness. Elliot, who else here for D's or F's that we can shout out as we round out DFS?
I mean, I've got 3 guys that I would consider to throw in the F's here. I would say Suarez just because of the car pedigree. Tyler Reddick, again, car pedigree. And Michael McDowell, not all that terrible here, pretty well-rounded. I think they're all probably worthy of F's, yeah.
Yeah, and only because if you look at these guys, I mean, Daniel Suarez, 18th overall in total speed rankings, according to iFantasy Race over here, heading into Martinsville. So it's a top 20 car. And in DFS, if we're talking Fs, that's actually pretty damn good for what he's costing you. So I like that as well.
Maybe bump up to the end of the D's or not even that much.
I was talking Tyler Reddick. I thought we were talking about Tyler Reddick. Oh, my bad.
We can do them both up there if they're both going to be better than RCR. I think this is still a pretty well-rounded board here.
Yeah, Bob in the chat is shouting out the 38. I agree with that. If you actually look, I actually like Todd Gillen. I would say more than both RCR boys, if I'm being honest with you. Finished 10th here after starting 17th in the fall. Like he has a couple runs here, another 13th place finish. So yeah, give me some Todd Gillen. I actually good shout out, Bob. Bob's a sharp here in the chat the last couple of weeks, man. He knows what he's fucking doing. Yeah.
Although I do love how this is shaping out, though, because we've got both legacy guys over both front row guys. So that means my legacy over front row bet is safely in reach from what we're talking about here.
Yeah, absolutely. I would say too, just put them in D's because they've been decent for what you're paying. Put both the Rick Ware racing cars there. Like Kaz Grall has honestly been a value. Or F's. I'm sorry.
I was gonna say.
I only nodded because this Mai Tai is getting to the head already. I was like, wait a second.
I heard D's. I was like, wait a minute.
Like I shouted out Daniel Hemrick in the article version of this last week, and he got 16 points. Like he's done what you've needed him to do most weeks. Like he's not burning you. And same with like I think you could probably make the case that like throw Daniel Hemrick throw Daniel Hemrick in there.
You're really crowding this F tier, Seth, but hey, I'm all good with it.
Well, I'm just saying I would rather I'm not playing Zane Smith. I'm not playing LaJoy for 5.8. All I'm saying is, and Sean came on the podcast last week, and he basically said like Daniel Hemrick's better than the worst guy on the board, and that's all I'm saying. He's 5,200. He's better than 5,200.
If we're going to put Hemrick in the wear cars, I think we got to have Cindric in the Fs to round it out. He hasn't been quite as woeful.
Sure.
In the mid-20s last fall, he was 11th in total speed ranking.
Yeah. Nick saying, don't drink in podcasts. Also drink with me whenever we do our next show. Yeah. Sometimes it's appropriate to drink in podcasts. The back road, always.
Yeah.
Always.
Although Elliot put Cindric in front of Hendrick or Hemrick.
Yeah.
I
And
think you're right. Yeah.
honestly, maybe even
in
Kyle
good conscience
Busch.
have the 31 in front of the two. I think I'm contractually obligated by my show to not have Hemrick anywhere.
Yeah, that's the smarter way to go about it. But I'll give Seth a little bump there. So what do we think for this? We want even the two ahead of Kyle Busch. How do we want to sort out this last little bit, or don't we care in the Fs?
The Fs, I don't think.
Put Cindric just above Kyle Busch, and we're good.
Okay.
All right. Yeah. So after, we weren't sure if we would really get down to the Fs. We thought we'd leave a lot of guys off the board. This looks like a pretty normal, off board sequence here.
Here's what I'll say though. Like honestly though, you're gonna have to take a couple shots if you want to stack some of these higher level guys. So that's why I think it's important that we do have some of these dart throws on the board. Like that's the bottom line. If you're taking Hamlin, if you're trying to stick another A or B plus driver in there, you're gonna fucking need a 5,000 dart throw. And yeah, give me a little fucking Daniel Hemrick down there. Give me a little shimmy shake Daniel Hemrick, baby.
Yeah, and the wear cars are pretty cheap too. But yeah, pretty normal back end here.
Yeah.
Corey LaJoie, at this time last year, we were all excited. That car was running well on, all kinds of different tracks. We were like, Corey LaJoie, maybe a mid-20s guy for good, early 20s. They were the worst car on speed. There's nothing wrong with it. They were just that bad last week to finish. I don't know if they finished dead last, but
they were dead last. We kind of know that Corey LaJoie's game is not short tracks. It's not Richmond, but I don't think it's Martinsville either. Like, that's the thing. I don't know.
No, and I don't know that Corey LaJoie's game is anything other than podcasting. I've listened to a little bit of Stacking Pennies. It's not bad, but you're going to keep stacking pennies at the back of the field unless you find something there. And the other two Spire guys, Hocevar occasionally show some upside. The last couple of weeks have been mid, and Zane Smith has just been down in the dumps in the mid-20s just with his buddy LaJoie. Hasn't been going well in his rookie season.
He wants to back to the trucks. That's what he wants. He wants to be a truck champion again.
Yeah. And all I'll say about Corey's podcast, haven't listened much, but I spend about 6 hours a week listening to Rod's podcast. And so none listening to Corey's. That should tell you a lot about Corey's podcast.
Yeah. And he's one of those kind of guys, like with that incident at Coda, he'll blame anyone but himself.
We got McDowell, some McDowell love from Ken. Yeah, we got McDowell up there.
Little McNasty in the Fs this week, yeah.
Yeah. Shout out McNasty. What's up, Ken? Good to see you, man. Thanks for tuning in tonight, man. What do you say, guys? Should we move to the betting then? I think we're pretty much good on DFS.
Yeah, Josh Williams in the 16, he's had rotten luck. Harrison Burton's Burton. He got engaged this week. Congratulations. Don't know if that's going to be a bump in that 21. And shout out to Carl Long and MBM for fielding cars. David Starr in that 66. Good job.
Fucking David Starr. And the engagement bump. Maybe a little engagement bump for Harrison Burton.
Engagement bump to 27th instead of 29th.
I was about to say, so what is he going to be, 23rd? Is he going to match his car number in 21st? That's great.
No, let's be honest. He ain't doing that.
That'd be a big week for Harrison right now, 21st in Martinsville.
Yeah.
It'd be a baby bump.
Yeah, no Carson Hocevar love. Like, I think this is where he could fuck something up. This is kind of where if you remember, I watched back the truck race from last year, and this is where he had his big dump on whoever he dumped. I can't remember, but if you remember, he just turned fucking left, dumped someone, and it was like, I'm good on Carson this week too.
Yeah, I don't see any upside for Spire or any of these guys we left off the board. But yeah, Seth, I think it's about time to get more specific in our bets in the parking garage props of the week.
Let's do it.
So as we briefly discussed in the beginning of the show, it's a pretty juicy week with these books out here. What do you guys think?
Yeah, me personally, I'm eating a lot of juice. I'm taking a lot of chalk. I'm taking some favorites across a bunch of series, but I felt like across series, Rod, I was expecting to be betting Corey Heim outright 2-1, Eric Almirola 2-1, Denny Hamlin 2.5 or 3.5, 4-1, and I still felt like there was value, and because there's still heavy favorites across series, I think it pushes value down the board as well.
Well, again, we've talked about this time and time again. As far as NASCAR bettors, we are spoiled. We are 1,000% spoiled because in NFL, if I was to tell you that the winner of a game would be $500 plus 500 would be 5-1. You'd take that every single day and twice on Sunday, right? But here we're like, well, 5-1 for Denny Hamlin to win this race.
Right?
That
Yeah.
feels too short.
That's
It's like, come on, man. It's 5-1 for Denny Hamlin. You place $100 bet, you're going to win $500. That's bad. I mean, come on now.
Yeah.
While we say that it's not really that great for us, it is great. I mean, it's still when you put it in the grand scheme of things. So yeah, I mean, and the odds have kind of shortened up a little bit on these too, as I've started to look through the books again from what we were even doing on Tuesday. So a lot of sharp bettors out there.
And I'll also add too, like, guys, the chalk has been winning. It's been a lot of 5-1, 7-1 winners who have been winning over the last couple of months. Like Bell was not very high of odds when he went out and won. Same with Larson in Las Vegas. He was a chalk. Denny's been the chalk multiple times. Byron's probably been one of the best lines at Coda. He was kind of, like a 12-1 floating out there a lot. So like besides that and Suarez and like, I guess you can count Byron's Daytona win. Like it's been pretty like chalky. And I think I'm going to continue to ride with that. Bob's saying, Bob was saying, nope, he did not say that. He said NFL tough to deal with. Yeah. NFL is tough to bet on, man. Like there's a reason these books are sharp out there. The only other thing I'd like to note about the books though, Elliot, real quickly is, as we're continuing to get further and further post North Carolina opening up, like keep an eye on these other books we weren't really betting on. Like ESPN Bet is back. Like they were under Barstool a couple of years ago, 2022. We were hammering them. They're back, man. Like Rob, they've had some really nice shit out there the last couple of weeks, and like Xfinity and truck odds now too.
Yeah, again, these offerings from these guys that are starting to come back again, they're really good. And this is why you got to always shop around. We always say, if you have multiple books available to you, shop around, because some of these books haven't caught up yet. Right, Elliot?
Yeah, that's true. I looked at a few of those ESPN odds. I got a couple on my sheet here for sure. And I will defend the whiners a little bit. The NASCAR odds, we're just looking at NASCAR here. I get the NFL is a whole different game. What I am curious, though, is, you guys know the football lines better than me. If plus 500 is a big line, what would you say, 07 Patriots against the 2008 Lions? What are you putting that the odds for the Lions to win that game in?
Oh.
It's probably about as high as it would get, right?
I was thinking there's not a number high enough for that. If that scientific calculator would be burnt out by the end of that one.
Yeah. These situations are not impossible, but yeah, I do agree. You got to be grateful for these NASCAR odds here. And even for those chalky outrights, got to be grateful for those. Who's on your board this week?
All right, I only have one outright play so far for Cup. I have a couple for the other series, but for Cup, Denny Hamlin plus 500 ESPN bet. Like, I don't want to be the guy who keeps coming on this program every single week and telling you, hey, bet Denny Hamlin and bet Kyle Larson, but I'm going to fucking do it because it keeps Denny cashes tickets, folks. He does. Yeah. Number 1 in the total speed rankings, or number 2 at the last 3 Martinsville races, finish in those races 3rd, 4th, and 5th. Won at the Clash. He's fired up right now about everyone saying that he jumped the restart. Pit crew is cooking. And also number 3 in the tracks this season in the total speed rankings on those low downforce packages that we've seen used at both Phoenix and Richmond. He's been good in both those races. So I like Denny Hamlin 5-1. I think it gets cut down further, maybe 5-1 on ESPN bet. Still everywhere else, it's like 4, 3.5. So I'll take a 5-1.
Yeah, I mean, that's not a very shocking statement. I think that Joe Gibbs Racing is going to win this race again, unless there's some late race fuckery, which, hey, we know how the Cup Series goes sometimes. It can happen. I saw Martin Truex Jr. plus 750 over there on BetMGM. Ty Gibbs is at plus 1,200 on Caesars. In terms of the Gibbs guys, I don't know. I don't have Bell's number in front of me. Rod, maybe you do, but I think it's going to be JGR once again in victory lane.
Yeah, so Bell 9-1 on BetMGM. He is 8-1 on ESPN. Bell is 8-1 on Caesars as well. And Bob, like you, my friend, I like Martin Truex Jr. I honestly, to me, this guy is pissed. I know that when I leave something on the table, I go home and I stew about it for the better part of however long it takes me to get over it. But race car drivers, man, when they step back in the car, they remember. I led almost every single lap of that Richmond race and every other Richmond race in his head over the last 3 seasons last week, and got cheated out of a win. You don't think he's going to be freaking ready to come back and do it again this week? He was at 750 when I first put him as an outright on the show. On Caesars, he's 650 right now, so he got hammered down. But you can still find him at 750 on ESPN. You can find him at 750 on BetMGM and a few of the other books. So I'm telling you, and like Nick was saying, what's the better play? Bet early before practice and qualifying, or hold until after. I had said this at the end of the NASCAR gambling podcast. If you really, really like one of these favorites, right? Now's the time to get in on them, because now will be the highest that there ever be. Denny will not be. Oh my God, BetMGM has him at plus 250 to win this. No, Kyle Larson. Yeah, but you will never see a number like that before practice and qualifying. You have to get in on them now. Now, if you want a long shot, it's the opposite.
Mm-hmm. I mean, you never know. Denny could blow his qualifying lap, end up 36th. But that's not going to happen. It is quite rare. Bob had Logano on his board too, plus 1,200 BetMGM. I don't hate that either. I think it's going to be really tough for Ford to win. I think this is Joe Gibbs. This is Toyota. One of those four is going to win it. But Logano plus 1,200, even Keselowski plus 1,800 on MGM. If you want one of those longer shots, I wouldn't. And I'm the long shots guy. I'm the give me all the plus money in the world guy. Don't go any longer than that for this race, because it's just not going to happen.
You guys, hang on. It is plus 250 on BetMGM right now for Denny Hamlin. Can you believe that?
That's wild.
Wow, I see it. Yeah. I mean, that's why I'm saying, like, I don't mind grabbing the 5-1 now with Hamlin and just
absolutely, yeah.
He's
like a fucking steal now.
Yeah, and we'll talk about it later in the show, but there's some other like good places you can kind of cover yourself that I feel like in these other series that can kind of help as well. I'm also on the any other outrights we haven't touched on, guys, or I think that's pretty much it from a Cup Series perspective. Yeah. Placement props, I'm down on Denny Hamlin top 5 minus 125 at Bet Rivers. He's really chalky everywhere else. Like I think everywhere else he's still pretty much like minus 160, minus 140, minus 180. So I'm taking a little bit of juice at minus 125, but I don't plan on paying that juice, so I'm feeling good about that one. I have a couple other placement props, but would you guys care to share any that you have?
So go ahead. No, go ahead.
All right, I'm drinking some of the juice this week. Blaney minus 230, Byron minus 155. I like those numbers. SHR were all. I mean, they're going to run up front. Maybe the Byron not as much, but if you're going to have some juice in the top 10s. SHR though, all plus money, at least as the time I looked earlier. Barry and Briscoe both a plus 100 on Bet Rivers. Gregson plus 200 and Priest plus 185. So a little bit of plus money. I don't think all four are going to be in the top 10. Pick your favorite though.
So yeah, and for me, look, I kind of hedged and took Hamlin as a top 3 because they still got him at plus money. Like that to me is crazy to have Hamlin at plus money for a top 3. I'm double checking. Yeah, he's still plus 130 over there on Caesars for a top 3. And that means if Truex wins the race and Denny Hamlin finishes second, then we're all, we're gravy. And for plus money for a top 3 for Denny Hamlin, I'll take that for sure.
Okay. I like it. I also, I'm going to shout out Kyle Larson, top Chevy, plus 190. I just think Kyle Larson is so much better at Martinsville than the other Chevys. The only Chevy to finish better than 13th in the fall race, only Chevy to finish in the top 7 for the last 2 races, and the top Chevy in the last 3 Martinsville races. So I really like what Kyle Larson's bringing here. To me, he's just like we had him on our tiers. He was the only Chevy in that A tier. Byron could snake him maybe, but like other than that, if you want to hedge a little bit with Byron, feel free to. But I hit the Larson kind of backdoor the top Chevy last week. I'm going to hit him again here, plus 190 at Bet Rivers. He's been as low as like plus 130 other places. So our friends in Pittsburgh, once again, Elliot coming in for us.
Yeah, and all those Hendrick cars are going to be painted red this week. If you see, red-looking cars, like I thought that Hendrick car's car was blue, since it always looks the same. They're running all red cars, 40th anniversary of HMS at the place where they first won.
So on the internet, there's a lot of conspiracies out there, like pounding. Like I'm seeing Steve Letarte out there likes Elliott this week to win, and like I think that's crazy. I think the only Chevy I think who could win is Kyle Larson. I'm going to be dead honest with you, like. I haven't put the outright on him 8-1. I think that's a fantastic number. I just haven't done it yet. I'm considering it still. I'm kind of seeing where my unit allocation is heading into Saturday. But I don't think any Chevy wins here, Elliot, except them.
No, I don't think Chevy wins, and I'm going to continue beating the same drum for both Chase Elliott and Alex Bowman. I'm not going to believe until you go out there and put together something close to a race winning strategy, something that's going to get you close to there. I mean, we've seen it with Bowman more recently than we have with Chase Elliott running up front there at Coda. It's just I just don't have any faith, especially not in outrights for these guys, and even in the placement props, they just have shit happen to them that just doesn't happen to the 5 and 24.
Rod, we got Alfred saying Logano top 5 plus 190 seems reasonable. How do you feel about that? And any other placement props we haven't touched on that you're down on this week?
Well, so I mean, Logano top 5. I mean, Cody always says it, and he's got me drinking all the Kool-Aid that Logano's the hardest guy in the entire garage to handicap. The weeks you're on him, he does poorly. The weeks you're off of him, he does all. So for your sake, Alfred, I'm going to say that Logano is not a top 5 car because I'm predicting that he's not. That means he's going to be. So for you, my friend, that is what I'm going to do for you.
Bob, he has 2 units down on the 22 and 19. I'm curious if that's their outrights. If you have 2 units apiece or 2 units combined, let us know, Bob. Don't mind those shots at all. I think there's a lot of money coming in for the 19 and some 22 love as well. 22 really fucking good at the Clash, man. So I think he could come out here. And as we mentioned, with Joey Logano, if you want to bet him, you have to bet him pre-practice and qualifying because he has the best average start here, five poles already as well. So good shout out there from Bob in the chat. Elliot, anything from you in placement props more before we jump over to matchups here? Because I do have a pre-practice matchup for everybody today.
Yeah, I liked some matchups on the board this week, so let's move on to that.
Okay, so Elliot shouted out Chase Briscoe. I'm down on him for the top 10 at even money on Bet Rivers for a unit. And then I also went over to Chase Briscoe versus Chase Elliott here, plus 130 at Caesars. I want a full unit on this one as well. Briscoe 4-0 against Chase Elliott at Martinsville in the next gen car. Briscoe number 5 in the next gen speed rankings at Martinsville. That leads to finishes of 4th, 5th, 9th, and 9th. And man, like we already kind of talked about Briscoe, you know what to expect from him at the tracks he's good at all those comp tracks, fucked around at Loudon, 10th place, 5th in the All-Star race, 7th in the Clash, 9th at Phoenix this year. The guy's just solid at the tracks we think he's good at, which are the short flats. And 3-0 at those comp tracks I just mentioned against Elliott. Like Elliott's going to be fine. He could be a top 10 car, but I think Briscoe could be a top 5 car. But instead of investing him in a placement outside like a top 5, I'm going to just double down here and go plus 130. Like that's a really good number, I think, against Elliott here.
Yeah, I mean, I think SHR is going to be good this week. I have a few of their matchups. I'll start with this one, though, because we've talked up Truex over, not quite over Hamlin. They're going to be for top 2. I found plus money on Truex against Hamlin, plus 135 over on DraftKings.
Do it.
I'm with Rod on this one. I've got faith on Truex getting back at his teammate. We've seen him get feisty at Martinsville before. I think there's a good chance it happens again, and then that plus money can hit.
It's not in that guy's DNA, Rod. He's out there fishing this week. He's out there fishing, clearing his head. We're here, and he's not even showing up to the Joe Gibbs meeting.
Look at Bass Pro Shops does not sponsor him for no reason whatsoever, right? So, honestly, I like that because I'm all in on the Martin Truex Jr. train. I really feel like he's gonna have something to prove. I mean, he may be Zen, yeah, I get that, but he's also a competitor, and when you're on the back end of your career, you know that your chances are few and far between, and when you get robbed of something like that, you got to go back out and prove that you belong with the big boys. So. My matchup, listen, Caesars actually has qualifying heads, and I'm going to take Chris Buescher over Ross Chastain in a qualifying head-to-head. Chris Buescher's plus 120 over Ross Chastain, who's actually the favorite here. But if you look at average starting position on this track, Chris Buescher has Ross Chastain's number. Chris Buescher has an average starting position of 21.5 in his 17 races on this, whereas Ross Chastain, an average starting position of 24.4 on this track. So it's only a couple of positions, but that makes all the difference in the world when you talk about it. The last few times we talk about the spring and the fall. The finishing position is really what makes the difference on this. The starting position is there, but the spring of 2023 rather, Ross Chastain started in 34th position, and in the fall he started in the 13th position. Chris Buescher, on the other hand, 10th in the spring, 18th in the fall starting position. So Ross Chastain, for some reason, doesn't have a whole lot of unloading speed and can't qualify all that well, whereas Chris Buescher kind of capitalizes on it. So give me Buescher over Chastain at plus money for qualifying.
I like that. Good shout out there. Elliot, what else do you have for matchups?
Well, that was one of my extra matchups in my notes, but I must have scrolled too far. I didn't realize it was a qualifying matchup, so I'm glad that I had it just on the back burner. Would have made a fool of myself there, so shout out for that one, Rod. I'll circle back on SHR. They have a few fun matchups. If you like some Chase Briscoe, plus 105 over Josh Berry on Bet Rivers.
I saw that.
If you're not so into Briscoe, Noah Gragson plus 150 over Briscoe at a big juicy price of minus 205 on DraftKings.
DraftKings matchups this week just got juice as hell. Like, I think Kyle Busch is over there, like, what, 2-1 against Logano or something fucking crazy.
Wow.
Yeah. DraftKings are wild. Like, if you're rooting for chaos, go over to DraftKings matchups this week, I think, because like those are the chaos matchups. Same with like the Gragson one. Like, I think the only way Gragson beats Chase Briscoe is if chaos, ensues, which you never know. Anything else, Elliot? Should we dip into if anyone has any specials? I know Rod probably has a couple of those.
Yeah, I'm good with specials time for sure.
Rod, you got anything for you handicapping fastest or speed of the race or anything like that this week?
Got to be my winning car number bet, right? Every single week I've got to have a winning car number bet. But this one I love the most because there's a couple of different ways that you can get in on it. Because again, if you think Martin Truex Jr. is going to win this race, there is a 10-19 band on Caesars right now that's offering plus 125 for that number to win the race. And then if you want to go odd, 10-19 gives you Denny Hamlin as well, right?
Yeah.
10-19 gives you
Blaney.
Denny Hamlin and Blaney.
Yeah.
And
so
Briscoe.
And Kaz Grala, guys.
Feeling froggy. If you're feeling froggy and all of that, then that definitely gives you that. But then there's also the odd at minus 105. Are you kidding me? Almost even money for odd to win the race. What does that give you? It gives you Ross Chastain, who could accidentally win this. It gives you Kyle Larson, who could accidentally win this. It gives you Elliot. It gives you Hamlin. It gives you Martin Truex Jr.
Yeah.
It gives you not Joey Logano. It gives you Bubba Wallace. If he accidentally wins this race, like there's a ton of great numbers underneath that could win this race for an odd number. So at minus 105, that's a pretty damn good odds for that.
I like that. Rod is always tossing out those good number bets. We got Bob in the chat saying he's going to be in. Are you going to be in Dover a couple weeks, Bob?
Hey, all right.
Let us know, man. Elliot and I'm going to be there, so let us know. We'll maybe grab a couple beers with you after one of the races, one of the nights or something, man. Let us know. Elliot, you got anything for specials?
I'll throw out two there. I like my longest odds for the manufacturer to win. That is Chevrolet this week at plus 270. Even if it's Larson, give you a little extra if Larson wins. And Seth, I know you have some other series bets probably. I'll give us a little segue there. Truex winning Martinsville and our guy Max Verstappen coming back and winning Formula One in Japan is at plus 1,000. And it's the shorter odds compared to those. This is my favorite one I've ever seen, the F1 NASCAR combinations.
Okay. I will say every time I've gone for the F1 double up outright offered by Caesar, never fucking hit it. Never hit it. But
because it's always Verstappen and then some, like it was Christopher Bell somewhere where he didn't.
I know, but I was all on Bell that week. This has
actually got a chance to hit. That's why it's only plus 1,000 instead of 2,800 or whatever it would be.
Yeah. Let's go to other series. Quickly, truck race Friday night. It's no doubt about it. I went 2 units on Corey Heim outright. I couldn't help myself. I rewatched that race from last year. He was the most dominant truck. He's been the most dominant truck this season. Pretty much every way you want to go about it. He was number 1 in green flag speed last year, number 1 in speed by segment. And Kyle Busch was in that race as well. Like, I'm not fucking scared of Sammy Smith coming down to the truck series. I don't get why he's the favorite. Like, I'm going Corey Heim or die, baby. I also took Toyota winning manufacturer in the truck series because Taylor Gray and Tanner Gray sneaky fast as well. Rod, your favorite bet or two over in the truck series?
Yeah, so we just actually wrapped up the show earlier today too as well. So I'm with you on the Corey Heim. Cody's with you on the Corey Heim.
Baby.
It's Heim time, baby. Sammy Smith, though, I understand. I don't know why he should be the favorite, but that 7 truck, right? I mean, Kyle Busch runs a 7 truck. This is a rotating truck. I don't think it should be completely ignored. I do have a top 3 on him at plus 130 because I feel like that 7 truck is fast enough to get to the front. Just a matter of can Sammy Smith do it? He's had some hard times at JRM, but you got to figure he was a fast-ass car in Joe Gibbs equipment, so got to give him that. I love Taylor Gray this week, though. I have him as an outright because I think this is the time where he punches through. My God, he had such a great run at Richmond last week in the Xfinity series. His very first Xfinity start. You got to think he's riding the momentum. This could be it. He's 14-1. I love that number for Taylor Gray.
Hell yeah. Taylor Gray, man, he's looked fast, and I wouldn't be mad about it because I do have that Toyota, so I would be super okay with that. Elliot, any thoughts on the Truck Series race here?
Yeah, I mean, I pretty much echo your thoughts there. Sammy Smith, the 7 truck is going to be one of the better ones. I don't like that he's the favorite. I like the Taylor Gray love that you guys have for sure.
Okay. All right. Looks like we got some love, some Jesse Love here. For
I have Jesse Love too.
Yeah.
Don't worry about that.
That's a really good number, 15-1 also. I kind of like that.
I had him at 18-1 earlier this week on Superbook. Shop around. That number could still be out there.
Okay. Bob coming in with the sharp number there on Jesse Love. I like Eric Almirola in the Xfinity series. I went 2 units on him plus 340. It's chalky, but I remember last year on the back road heading into Martinsville, I really liked Eric Almirola. I had him on the top 10. I was like, oh my God, is this guy going to go out and win the race? And I'm just on a placement prop for him. His last 5 Cup Series runs here at Martinsville, 2nd, 6th, 15th, 8th, and 6th. Last week, he looked like the best car aside from Chandler Smith. I think he's going to be one of the best cars this week. I'm hedging a little bit on Chandler as well. I found him 4-1 at Bet Rivers, as opposed to 3-1, plus 320 other places. So I'm going heavy on Almirola, plus 110 for a top 3 as well. Rod, how did you handicap this Xfinity race?
So it was funny because I loved Eric Almirola last week and he burned.
You did.
Yeah. So I went love at 18-1. And then I also went Taylor Gray at 25-1 just because I'm all in on Taylor Gray this weekend, apparently. But where I found some fun, and this caused some serious controversy on our show, Shane Van Gisbergen. I'd taken him over Matty D. And really what caused the most stress about this one was the fact that it's minus 180. Everybody's up in arms like, oh my God, you never take that on a head-to-head. Look, Matt DiBenedetto, the silence should tell you everything you need to know. And SVG, I'm not saying that he's going to be a winning car, but I think he'll be at least a top 15 car, which is more than I can say for Matt DiBenedetto in the Xfinity series on this track. So I got that one. That one caused controversy, but I like that.
Just the fact that Rod is backing SVG. Let's have a slow clap for our guy Rod after that, man. I never thought I'd see the day, let alone at minus money. I'm about it though. Matty, is he back in that 38, Elliot?
Yeah, whatever car he ran last week, he's back in there. And I mean, it's shout out to him for being as dumb as he's been to be all the way down to part-time in a shitty Xfinity car. Because the guy's a wheelman. He finished better than I thought he would last week in a shitbox. But
dude, but all I'll say, Rod, is actually Matty D was kind of lit here, if you remember, in the Cup Series, had a couple top 10 runs.
That's in good cars.
Series, but in good cars, yeah.
Is the Wood Brothers a good car then, and Harrison Burton's just that bad?
Yeah, but
better than what he's in an Xfinity.
Yeah, and I'm not a big Matty D fan because, as I said, he's done dumb things that have failed to advance his career. He would be better in that 21 than Harrison Burton. I think Burton got rushed a couple little too soon because of the money. That's just what happens nowadays. And I'll say this about Almirola too, as while we're talking about shitty cars. If he can go out and win an Xfinity at Sonoma in a Ryan Sieg car, he sure as hell can win Martinsville in a Gibbs car.
Yeah. And what Dash for Cash this week? 100,000 on the line for a couple drivers as well.
Yeah, and this is the first week, so there's no like presets. It's just the front 4 are eligible for the next week. Yeah.
Hell yeah.
And no Cup Series drivers too. That's the most important thing.
Yes. Yeah. I love it, boys. I love it. Well, anyone have anything else we didn't touch on in the betting portion, or are we ready to let people go out and set their cards?
Yeah, I mean, I think we're good. Just we've said this a few times. Shop around a bit. Like I said, good numbers on ESPN Bet. Shout out North Carolina for legalizing that. I think that has really helped some of these books take it more seriously. We're going to continue to see more numbers, better numbers out there from more books because the home of NASCAR is now legal for sports betting.
California, get your act together. Jesus Christ. Let's get some freaking legalized gambling.
There's things go through red tape so much more out west there that it'll be a hot minute, but I think hopefully soon for you, Rod.
I'm moving. I don't care.
Rod, tell us everything you got going on right now, man. I know you're in the thick of fucking arena football season about to get ripping here soon. And NASCAR 5 days a week, a little F1 thrown in there as well.
You guys don't have enough time for me to fill you all in, but yeah, you can catch me on Twitter at RJ Villagomez. Link on the bottom. Everything I got going on, obviously, whether it's here, NASCAR Gambling Podcast, 5 days a week, covering everything you need to know for all 3 series, as well as DFS. You're right. I'm in Arena Football League. We got Media Week going on all this week, so check out the Arena Football League podcast on that YouTube channel. I've got WrestleMania stuff coming out for Sportsbook Review. It's already out, actually, so go check it out for this weekend's WrestleMania events. Yeah, and yeah, sometimes I actually have a life outside of that. But,
do they allow WWE betting? Is that what you're saying?
In some places, you have to look around. DM me if you want to know where they allow WrestleMania betting.
Because that just seems with the whole kayfabe aspect. That seems so interesting to me. But hey, people will bet on any fucking thing in the world now that it's out there. So I believe it.
Including Andrew, who's betting on Chase Elliott yet again at 25-1. Hey, you're on with Steve Letarte, man. You're drinking that juice. I appreciate it, Andrew. Good to see you again tonight, man. Nick saying in the chat as we close out, Matty D had a joke for this, but couldn't spell his name. Suffice to say, he's no good. He's no good, baby. He's no good.
Hey, I don't know if you looked it up, but I think you nailed it. Maybe I'm missing the joke there, but yeah.
That's a Fleetwood Mac, baby. You're not Fleetwood Mac. That's
Yeah, we're too young for that, I guess.
Rod, don't say that, my friend. We got Bob.
That's it.
We got Bob saying in the chat 15-1 for Larson to win Indy. Can you do it, Rod? You're more the Indy guy. Any love for Larson?
Listen, I love Larson for the most part, but you've got guys like Paulo, you've got guys like Newgarden. They're not going to let Kyle Larson win. If they become a sniff of him, it's over.
Yeah, I mean, the closest the NASCAR guys come in recent history was Allmendinger, and then he had a bad pit stop, and that kind of killed it for him. Kurt Busch, pretty good finish.
Yeah, Kurt Busch had.
Linda Ron said, "Okay, I'm too young, went right over my head."
I have his record. I have a record back in my collection.
Nice.
Well, guys, thanks so much for hanging out with us down the back road tonight. Bob, find me on Twitter at @between_SethFF and Elliot at eHicks39 if you want to connect about Dover in a couple weeks. If any of you guys have any betting questions that either Rod, Elliot, or I can help throughout the weekend, please hit us on our personal Twitters or the site Twitter at IBT_media. Easiest way to support us, and we can't thank you guys enough. The YouTube numbers continue to climb as we're inching closer and closer to that 1K mark. So thank you guys so much for all that support. We greatly appreciate it. Elliot, you and Ozzy and I, we got a lot of great written content for NASCAR coming out on the site as well. So what else can you tell the people as we head to Martinsville?
Yeah, I mean, you said it. Thanks for rolling down the back road with us. Real excited for Dover in a couple weeks. Going to be a fun one. And best of luck on the short tracks of Martinsville here as we roll on into the weekend.